Hi guys, Dr. Gamerman here. Today we're going to do a little video about DC WoW and the loadout for Ice. Ice can be a good DPS and a very good tank, but you really need to know how to play it. Currently there are better tanks and easier tanks to play with, because this tank role will leave you very dependent on how good will the healer be. Why? Because you don't have any kind of self-healing effect on ice. Ice shields are just that, shields. They don't give you any extra health or replenish any kind of health during combat. So first of all, let's go through the loadout for DPS. Mind you that my current character is not very well equipped, doesn't have a lot of skill points. It's not like my last character, DC WoW Batman, that has a ton of skill points and armor. This one is a very straightforward how to start a character. This character is based on Superman, as you can see, so let's get started. So for the ice DPS, we'll start off with heat vision. Heat vision will burn your enemy, which makes them be set on fire. This is actually very good because this will interact with ice very well. Secondly, we'll have frost blast. This will actually make your enemies stand on ice, and frostbitten enemies will take additional damage. Here we have frost snap. Frost snap will also take additional enemies. Will take enemies that are frostbitten have additional damage done to them. Ice boulder strike, same effect. And finally, this one. This one will actually be my first power. Why? Because Wintry Tempest will make your enemies frostbitten. So this will interact with all of these powers. And in the end, you hit them with heat vision, because it's a very good DPS attack if you have the correct artifact. On this character I don't have that artifact yet, but I will in the future. So as a supercharge, I selected Blizzard. Why? Blizzard is very good because it's very wide. It's an AoE ranged attack. It generates a nice storm that engulfs a lot of enemies, so it does heavy damage to multiple enemies at the same time. So let's give it a little test here. So first of all, let's select a target and launch the powers as they are supposed to be launched. As you can see, the damage that I take is almost negligible because I don't have a lot of good artifacts on this character. But believe me, when you really pull on ice power and equip your character very well, this will become an excellent DPS, an excellent DPS character. So, as for the inventory loadouts, as you can see, all of my equipment is very standard, T2 and T3 armor. So this character is pretty recent. So as for the mods and augments, as for the origin augments, I go for full might. This is not a power, precision power. Why? Because you're very dependent on your powers. You can go for full precision with the bow, as you can see here. The bow is also an excellent, as you can see, my supercharge going up fairly fast. It's a very good weapon to build up your supercharge fairly quick. Mind you that this power is not very good for PvP. Why? Because it's fully dependent on might, as I said, and precision, which is very good on PvP. I wouldn't say it's horrible power, but it leaves a lot to be desired. Why? Because you're dependent solely on your weapon. You can do this, your enemies, while you're doing this, at the middle of that power, you are already either tied up or on the ground because it was blocked already. This will also get you on the ground fairly fast. This is actually not very bad, and this for sure will leave you on the ground. Any player that knows how to play PvP will leave you on the ground or tied up on ice or ice tank, ice DPS or ice tank. So let's go for the tank roll. As you can see, I selected the shield, which is not a very traditional or accepted weapon for tanks, but hell, I'm a tank, I need a shield. So let's go for the loadouts, shall we? We'll start out with reflection. This is a very good power because this will return damage to your enemies. Shatter Restraints. Shatter Restraints will provide immunity for controlling effects to all of your teammates. All of your teammates, okay? Winter Ward will surround yourself with a shield of ice. Basically, this is a very standard shield, as well as is reflection. I would consider Shatter Restraints a shield because it does provide immunity for controlling effects. That's why I left them on the 3 shields of ice. Mind you that a lot of people use Hard Light Shield, that I will show you here on the iconic powers. It's this one. It's not highlighted, but the Hard Light Shield will create an additional shield. Okay, this is why I told you at the beginning of the video that ice is very, very dependent on how good the healer is. Why? Because its shields don't give life back, and you're dependent on an iconic shield if you select not to have a supercharge. Okay, if you don't select to have a supercharge, just use Hard Light Shield as well. Resonating Gale. Resonating Gale inflicts basically it pulls your enemies toward you, so it's a pulling effect power. It pulls your enemies near you so you can more effectively tank them. Unescapable Storm, same effect. So these 3 powers are shields, these 2 powers are pulls. As for the supercharge, a lot of people use Ice Elemental, will turn you into a frost monster. I don't necessarily use that because Ice Monster only increases damage, doesn't give you any life back, or generates an additional life bar of the armor of Ice Giant. It doesn't have any kind of special effect that will provide you a visible and discernible defense mechanism. To me, I use hibernation. Hibernation will actually taunt your enemies to continue to attack you while engulfing you on ice, which will heal you, so you help the healer back. In order for the heals not to be so constant and the power drainage not so bad, this is a very good supercharge to have on tank. It quickly heals you and protects you from damage while taunts your enemies to continue to attack you. Straight up, this is a tank power. This is how a tank power is supposed to act, a supercharge that is. Let's give it a whirl. So, what I recommend to use first is actually pull your enemies, like this, and then generate your shields. Also, what I do recommend at the same time, almost on equal terms, is actually do the reverse. Generate your shields and then pull your enemies. This will give you a little bit extra leeway and leverage against your enemies, while not leaving you completely vulnerable. This is very good for weaker enemies. The reverse is also very good for stronger enemies. So, for weaker enemies, shields first, pull later. For stronger enemies, shields first, pull later. For a little bit weaker enemies, just do what you want, basically, because the healer will protect you and your shields will also protect you. Basically, just pull them and generate the shields later on. For stronger enemies, I do not recommend that. Generate your shields first and then pull the enemies, so you help the healer a little bit, not stressing him out right at the beginning of the fight. Basically, that's it for ice power. As you can see, my character is not very well equipped. I do recommend tanks to have priority on their armor and weapons and accessories like the rings and necklace. Okay, guys? Okay, that's it for the video. Thanks.